G'day everyone, and welcome back to the next module, which is branding. Now, heads up, this is likely to be a longer video. I decided to record it all as one. However, what I do recommend you do is I've broken it into 5 sections. If it gets too much for you, just watch the parts, let's say introduction part 1, and then go 2, 3, and then 4 and 5, or you're more than welcome to watch the whole thing. But I'm conscious that the more you consume, maybe the less attentive you become. So that's why it could also be a good idea to split it into the respective sections. So we're gonna make a start. As I said, this is all about branding, and I'm going to take you through why you need it and how you go about building your brand and all the factors that are necessary. And this is why it's long, because this is not necessarily a straightforward exercise. It's a time-consuming one, but it's a necessary part of you building your business if you want to be successful, at least anyway. So yeah, apologies, had trouble clicking through on the slide there. So yeah, the introduction. So the value of the strong brand, I put this into a presentation so that you can follow along a little bit more easily and take notes. The value of the strong brand, it cannot be overstated. Now, this can lead to increased client willingness to pay as well in some situations, not in all situations. And it allows you to spend more time on the business and maximize the time spent on client acquisition. However, creating that unique and differentiated brand and quantifying the return on investment, the ROI, of your branding efforts will be the challenge. If you're an independent consultant looking to invest in your brand, I'm gonna share some of my experiences from my perspective, and how I kind of documented all the processes and procedures and my learning path, which is how I've been able to compile these slides, and also how I'm able to help others in our main program build their brands. It's off the back of my experience, not just doing it in one business, but in multiple businesses, and having the experience and leverage from having worked with a Fortune 500 company that was super conscious around brands. And I actually was involved and experienced a brand relaunch while I was with them, which is quite a unique experience as well. So creating that unique brand identity, well, to build a solid foundation for your business, we need to start developing a distinct brand identity. What you don't want to be doing is just being seen as another quantity surveyor. Okay, so this should reflect your values, your expertise, and the unique value proposition you bring to the market. Now, you may be seeing terms here like unique value proposition. Sometimes, it's the unique selling proposition, the USP. These are all kind of like, business marketing terms, positioning terms. So they may not necessarily be in your tool set of what you're expecting to hear. They may be new, but I would encourage you, and certainly at the end I talk about some more resources, go and educate yourself more on branding if you feel that this is something you want to strengthen. I would suggest that you're going to need to, because this is really a critical component of starting a business. So by doing all of that, you can differentiate yourself from your competitors and create that memorable impression on your potential clients. Now, communicating your brand across multiple channels, outlets, these are where you're going to spread your message. So once you've established your brand, your identity, you need to communicate that consistently in as many applicable outlets as possible. So that's blog articles, social media posts like LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, networking events. You need to be building awareness to show and demonstrate your credibility and your trust amongst your target audience. And we'll look more at the target audience in the marketing module. But that's essentially your target audience is your potential clients. Who are you targeting? Who is going to pay your invoice when you've completed work? Okay, so you need to be sustaining brand growth with minimal marketing effort. This is the aim of strong branding. The brand does the selling. Okay, so to ensure the continued growth of your brand, you need to adopt strategies that allow you to focus on your core business without spending all of your time per se on marketing activities. This may involve leveraging your network, collaborating with complementary businesses, or automating certain aspects of your marketing efforts. Again, we dive deeper into marketing in another module. So reap the benefits of a strong brand. So with a powerful brand, you enjoy a more robust pipeline, period. Okay, an enhanced reputation and the potential to establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry by following an outline and investing in you and your brand. This will be your way of building a successful business. Now, I also want to highlight, in case it's not clear from this module on branding, there are two aspects to branding. There is branding yourself, you as an individual, and there is branding your business. They are both equally important, but this module is concentrating more on the brand of your business, just to be clear on that. So section 2, establishing your brand, your business brand. So we're diving a little bit deeper. That was just the introduction, so you might see some repetition. But, you know, as you're becoming an independent consultant, you need to be aimed to be building a strong brand that's critical to make you stand out in a competitive market. And our space is competitive. Let's not say that it's not. And I'll cover a bit more in depth later how you can overcome that. But with a growing number of professionals that are turning to freelancing, you will be competing against them, because whilst you're building a sustainable business that will be more than a freelancing business, at the time of starting, you're a one-person consultant. You are competing against freelancers. So don't be off-put by that. It's more important than ever to distinguish yourself and make an impact in your field. Okay, because freelancers won't be concentrating on brand. Let's explore the question of why we're having a brand for consultants and what benefit it brings to your business. So there is competition, as I said earlier, in the space of quantity surveying, but don't be discouraged by that. It should be encouraging, because it's going to push you to be better than your competitors. Because there are not many that really fully understand the power of working hard on a brand, the benefits that it can bring. Okay, you're going to have the advantage by concentrating on branding. It's crucial to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack, to stand out in the crowd, and a strong brand can certainly help you achieve it. Okay, it won't be the totality, but it moves you a long way forward and separates you from the pack for sure. So your brand is essentially your professional identity. It's what sets you apart from others in your field, and messaging and the message around the brand is super important. By developing a unique and recognizable brand, you can leverage more prospective clients who already understand the value that you provide, provided that your messaging is correct. A brand can also get you invited to conversations with the thought leaders in your industry, and this can lead to new opportunities and a chance to learn from others in your field as well. So why does it matter? In addition to these benefits, having a brand, it can also give you a way to package your expertise and potentially sell your business when you're ready to move on. This is more of a strategic, longer term view. But it can be a significant advantage if you're looking to retire or transition to another career at a certain strategic point. Okay, so it's very important across really all matters that branding becomes a daily routine of building your business, especially in the early days. So building and maintaining a brand, it requires an investment of your time, energy, and money. You're not going to be able to do it for free. However, the benefits can be significant. Okay, so you may be able to charge higher rates for your services if you have a strong brand. And the way you look at that is that, QSs that are strongly branded, well known in the industry, top providers of services, of course they charge more money than someone who is unbranded, because there's the unseen element that they are better. It may not be the case, but it's all about perception. Can't stress that enough. Okay, so clients are often willing to pay more for someone who is seen as an expert in their field. Again, this is perception. It doesn't mean jack, it's perception only. You could have someone who's a freelancer, single, sole practitioner, who is the best person at that particular function in the whole of the world, but he won't get a seat at the table because top tier QSs, in the client's mind, their perceived outcome is going to be a lot better, and that's the position that you want to create for yourself. So this certainly it becomes even more relevant if we get very specific by drilling down into specialist niches where others don't venture, and I'll cover more on that later. It's important to note though that you don't have to invest in a brand to be a successful independent services provider. However, there are some downsides to solely relying on your personal brand. So you may not be seen as a thought leader, for example. You may not be invited to share your expertise with others or to participate in those higher level discussions if your brand is weaker. Additionally, each time you finish an engagement, you may have to scramble for the next client. You may not have that brand established to help you attract new business, but these are all matters that can be worked on in the longer term and not necessarily required immediately, but you definitely need to have a strategy to build a brand for the longer term. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. So to wrap up the why, it can help you stand out in a crowded market, very important, attract new clients and potentially increase your earnings while building and maintaining a brand. It requires an investment of time and resource. And the benefits can be significant in terms of the kind of work that you get to do, the conversations that you have, and the way that you are compensated. And I can certainly speak that that is the truth, because it certainly helped me when I positioned and branded myself in a way that people saw me as the expert in my space. Then the invoice value significantly altered. So what is a consulting brand? As a consultant, it's important to understand the concept of a consulting brand versus a personal brand, and also to some extent a product brand. So your personal brand is about how people think of you and your reputation. A consultant brand is focused on your client's needs and represents just a part of you. So rewatch that, because it's important that you understand that difference. A consulting brand has a value independent of you, which means that it can be sold or used to start other consulting brands. Unlike the product brand, for example, BMW, Adidas, Apple, a consulting brand is less about your logo and tagline and more about your value proposition and your messaging. So it's about what your firm stands for and the promise behind everything your firm does. Now, to start with, as a solo practitioner, your brand and the business brand are kind of merged. But as you grow your business, they become separable. So bear that in mind. And this is why we're concentrating on separating the two. And I'm making you aware that you need to build a corporate brand as well as having your personal brand. Okay, so your consulting brand represents your expertise and understanding of how to manage the process. and it's what makes your clients feel confident that you can help them. Okay. A good consulting brand allows potential buyers to immediately recognize your value without you having to explain it. This is a so-called elevator pitch, what we call elevator pitch in marketing. Okay, so this can save you time and help you avoid cold calling, because the messaging is there for all to understand what you do. When people come to you, they've already having a defined need, and they may have even already decided that you're on their shortlist and perhaps even only their only choice. Right? A strong consulting brand is tied to the value the firm creates for the people it serves. Okay, I'll say that again. A strong consulting brand is tied to the value the firm creates for the people it serves, your target audience. It's about the forever promise that you will help your clients achieve, and what justifies their commitment to you over any other competitive firms that are out there tallying, competing for their business. Okay, again, it's making sure that you stand out in the crowd. What is a consulting brand? It's important to note that while many firms have a brand promise that is inextricably linked to the firm's owner, building a strong brand that is separable from your personal brand can create a valuable asset that, as we've said earlier, you may be able to sell. You need, though, to have a very clear North Star defined. Now, if you're not sure what that means, then you will need to delve deeper into how to find your North Star. And it's, there's a flexible approach to continually evolve the service you provide to meet the changing needs of your clients and pursue areas of your own interest. Okay. I'm not going to go into further detail around the North Star here, because that starts to get really deep diving into branding, which is not part of the micro course overview. Positioning. When starting out as your independent consultant, your solo consultant, your QS practice, defining your brand, it can be challenging. Completely, utterly accept that, because you're in QS mode. Up until this point, you've more than likely only ever worked for someone, and that's been their problem. Now, a good place to start, though, is positioning. What do I mean by that? It's a term. It's where you fit relative to target clients' other options. It's about understanding where you stand in relation to your competition. If you weren't available for a project, what other solutions would your prospect consider? That's how you define your positioning. Defining your unique positioning is crucial to being able to differentiate yourself from your competition. It's about identifying what makes you unique and what value you bring to the table that others do not. Okay? And you may have to dive deep into your inner self for this, but by narrowing on your unique positioning, you can attract clients who are looking for exactly what you're offering and are willing to pay for it, and to some extent you can reduce potential competition. So this is broad versus defined in essence. Okay, you can sure start a consultancy and go as broad as you want. Quantity surveying services for hire, I will do anything. First thing that does is it smacks of desperation, and you're also then positioning yourself in exactly the same space as every other solo consultant and every other freelancer toying for the work, and you will go rock bottom prices just to win the work, because that's the mentality of that market. You really want to be avoiding that at all cost. It's important to exercise restraint when defining your positioning. The more turf you want to protect, the more effort and expense it will require. Okay, so again, another case for not going broad. Every new claim you make needs to be supported with proof points, collateral, marketing collateral, and client testimonials. So if you're an expert in hotels, highways, bridges, mega malls, and a whole list of 32 other things, you're going to have to create a lot of marketing and client testimonials for all of that. If, however, you decide that you're an expert in mechanical cost estimating and you specialize in HVAC ductwork, or another example that I've used with one of my private clients, where we looked at such a niche market of medical gas quantity surveying, because don't go all out and start becoming a medical gas consultant off the back of that. But if you Google it, you will not find, you will only find one QS actually, and that person actually works for a company. They're not an independent consultancy. That gives you an enormous amount of reach, and to become an expert, a very, very defined expert, and the money will follow accordingly. So that's the type of example that I can give you. I've got a number in my business where I'm not going to state them here, but I'm so deep and narrow into a niche that I'm only one of two in the world that provide it, and that's exactly what you need to be looking towards doing. Because when you and that the second person, we actually combine and do joint ventures on larger projects, being that we're only one of two in the world that can do what we do. Not one of two that can do what we do, but we are recognized as only one of two of two that regularly do it with consistent good results. So yeah, I personally really prefer, and I cover this a lot in the main program, where I encourage people and we explore what narrowness is going to get you really recognized and paid well. It's definitely the way to go. So having a broad positioning, it can bring you a broad range of clients, and that's just going to spread you thin, make you less of an expert on any one process, industry, or topic. You're just blending into the crowd. You're not becoming anything special. It's better to choose your positioning carefully and narrow in on what you want to be known for. So again, as I've just said, you really need to get micro niching, as I call it, because it pays a lot better. Right, developing your messaging. So developing your brand messaging is a crucial step in establishing your brand and protecting your patch as the independent consultant. Your brand messaging should support your brand positioning. Now, a lot of this is going to sound alien, so you may need to rewatch, take notes, stop and play and understand. But, this is all the foundational components of a brand I'm giving you here. And your brand positioning and convey your unique value proposition to your target audience. So it's about communicating your expertise and what sets you apart from your competition. So if you're positioning yourself as an expert in mechanical engineering cost management, then guess what? Your brand messaging, it needs to focus on your proof points. How do you get someone to believe that that's what you're the expert in? So the way we do that is that you demonstrate you've undertaken a plethora of similar projects and delivered them all within budget. That's one example. You're going to have to come up with a lot more testimonials, marketing collateral, all that sort of thing, so that when someone who's thinking of hiring you looks at all that, they immediately associate you with being the person that can do the job without any question. So your brand messaging should be consistent across all your communications. Particularly important if you're going to be marketing across social media platforms. It's a principle called omnipresent, and it is essential that you are congruent. Please, please, please do not post on one social media platform that you are a mechanical engineering cost management specialist and then go over to another one claiming you're the specialist in medical gas QSing, because it will just confuse people and they will not take you seriously as being an expert in anything. So consistency is key. Now, whether that's from your website to your email newsletters to your elevator pitch, doesn't matter. Every message you create should tie back to the proof points to reinforce your brand positioning. You should also tailor your messaging to different groups of people using different formats. So you may create collateral customized for potential referral sources like engineers, suppliers, and the like, or develop a presentation that you offer for free to organizations that have a need for, for example, the one we've used, the mechanical engineering cost management. So what I'm really saying here is, you can leverage others to advocate on your behalf to, they will have an audience themselves of people who might be interested in your service. So don't just think that you have to go out and look for people that want your service direct. If you were that mechanical cost engineering expert, you don't necessarily always have to go to mechanical engineering contractors. They buy from suppliers. You could approach the suppliers and say, do any of your customers need this service? That's the way you have to start thinking. You have to think outside of the box as to where your target audience congregates. So it's important to consider how people might incorrectly assume things about your brand as well, and incorporate that into your messaging. This can help clarify what you do and what you don't do, and it prevents any confusion. That's the last thing you want in marketing. Confused minds don't buy. So, for example, if people assume that you do BIM modeling of mechanical installations when you actually only do cost management, you might start by saying, I'm a quantity surveyor specializing in mechanical engineering. We use BIM, but only for estimating and not for design. You're reinforcing that message professionally that you are not into design, just for clarity. As a QS, we would understand that, but people viewing your services might not. So incorporate referrals, testimonials, if you like, into your messaging. That can also be a powerful tool. It shows you're not desperate for any type of work, and it allows you to do a favor for your peers while reinforcing your claim on your own turf. If other professionals in your space support your messaging and your claim, then you've really have built something special, because other people are shouting your ability to perform your job. That's the ideal position to be in. So, section 3, getting seen and being heard. Paid awareness versus awareness earned. So, in our world of consulting, building a strong brand, as we've said, I keep reinforcing it, but it's essential to success. Once you've defined your brand and your value proposition, how do we make sure the right people hear about it? It's all very well, me telling you about, how to go about doing it, but how do we get our message heard? So that answer lies in distinguishing between paid awareness, so like advertising essentially, and awareness that is earned, which I call organic. Okay. Now, when you're first starting out in the first 12 months, you really want to be concentrating on that awareness that you've earned. Paid advertising can be expensive as a newcomer into the industry, because you don't have that as a skill set necessarily. It's very rare that someone is an expert in writing ads if they've come out of employment as a quantity surveyor. And then if you put all your trust into a media provider, you don't know whether they're doing a good job for you or not, particularly in our niche, because not a lot of people understand what we do, who are media writers and buyers, as they call them in the industry. And they may not get the messaging correct, so they may not get the target audience correct. And what that means is that you just wasted quite a considerable amount of money on advertising that is essentially a complete and utter dead end. So paid awareness involves any kind of advertising, sponsorship, LinkedIn ads to event sponsorships, for example, Facebook ads, all of those, Instagram ads. So while paid awareness, it can be effective and it can be a good way to build brand awareness and communicate your services, it can also be costly, and I do not recommend in your first year of establishing your consultancy that you do that. In fact, I strongly say do not. However, with paid awareness, you have greater control to some extent over when and where your message appears, as well as who sees it. But again, you need to be an expert in that, or hire an expert who has proven experience in getting results for quantity surveyors. Okay, which is difficult because I don't know of any, and I've done a lot of research around it. So yeah, it requires a lot of practice to master, as I've said. You can do it, but why would you want to when you've already got your hands full building a consultancy? You're going to have enough to do already, or a lot of money to do it on your behalf. I've already cautioned you as to why you shouldn't be doing that. It can also provide valuable insights into what kind of messages and keywords resonate with your audience, and a great way to bring and test new ideas and offerings. But this paid awareness, it's really advanced, and year 3 onwards, when you're looking to scale, that's really where I would promote getting into this more. On the other hand, awareness earned is the kind of exposure that you can't buy. It's pure PR, public relations. Okay, so this includes testimonials from your clients if you're going to publish any books, invitations to speak at industry events. This is a really good one, by the way. And quotes, subject, as a subject expert in journals and business media. This is the type of exposure that you want. Okay, earned media is typically more credible and meaningful to potential clients, as it implies an implicit endorsement by an established individual or organization. Someone is speaking of your credibility on your behalf as an independent third party. That's really powerful. Think about that. It's very powerful. And the more the stronger the reputation of the person speaking on your behalf, the more that strengthens your brand. Okay, it's a powerful way to build trust and credibility with your brand, or into your brand. So how do you strike the right balance between paid? I've kind of covered that. Really concentrate on earned awareness from years 1 to 3 is my advice to you. The key is to try and mix both, but only once you've built a solid foundation in your first year, for sure, 100%. Just focus on the awareness earned. I wouldn't. I'm covering this because I need to, so that you're aware. You're going to get out there, and people might approach you and say paid ads, and you might be tempted, and that's why I'm covering it, because I'm saying no, please don't. And if I don't cover it, then you might be tempted, and you're going to end up losing money. And I don't want that for you. I want you to make money, and I want you to be successful, which is why I'm putting this course together, and presumably why you're watching it. So thank you for your trust in allowing me to guide you in the best way, from my perspective anyway. Ultimately, the most important thing to remember is that you can't endorse yourself. Okay, this is not an ego trip, and you don't want it to be one, because people will repel from you on that basis, which is kind of self-defeating. So claiming to be an industry leader will never be as powerful as an endorsement from an established leader in your field, so just bear that in mind. Where should you be present? Well, choosing the right brand outlets is crucial for reaching your target audience as an independent consultant. So with so many different outlets available, from speaking at events, for example, to advertising on social media. By advertising, I mean, getting your content out there, promoting yourself, not necessarily by paying. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and unsure of where to invest your time and resources. Okay, so key to this is to identify your target audience and to work out where they hang out. Once you've identified your target audience, and this goes back to positioning, once you've defined your positioning, then you can work out how who your target audience is, and then when you've defined what your target audience is, you'll have a better understanding of where that target audience hangs out. So going back to our mechanical contractors, if you're a specialist, they may hang out at trade shows, right? So make sure you're at a trade show. Maybe even get a desk or a cabin, or whatever they call them, a trade show, You know, it's going to cost some money, but that's going to be tremendous. You know, that's kind of like a paid awareness that is beneficial. But that's where you need to understand. So positioning, target audience, where do they hang out? It's really going to help you as to where you should be present. So first and foremost, it's important on what's most effective for your business. So, you know, what outlets will be best at building that credibility in the short term? So, you know, what will make the right people reach out to you when they need someone with what you have, with your value proposition? Consider those different options that are available to you. It's also important that you consider your ability to execute on these different outlets. What are most suited or you are connected for. So, for example, don't force yourself to become a public speaker if you hate being the center of attention. So don't speak at events if you can't stand doing it, if you fear it. You know, you can eventually pay someone to let you overcome that fear and develop your confidence as a public speaker. And don't do it from day one if that's not your jam. Okay, choose something that you're excited about, because you're going to come across a lot better to your potential clients if you're comfortable speaking or writing or whatever method you choose. That's going to come across in how you present yourself. So remember, your goal isn't to be famous, only to be famous in your target market, to your target audience. You want to become as famous as possible in that market, but not famous like worldwide. Kind of irrelevant, really, anyway. But your goal is to build that strong brand and a viable business. Stay focused on what will be the most effective for your business. Don't, you know, detract yourself from that and go off into different areas, and what you can execute on most effectively. Try, you know, picking 3 outlets that would, you know, you think would be useful for you and your brand and that you'd get excited digging into. Commit to learning about and dabbling all of those 3 for a month, and at the end of that month, pick one that you know is going to work well for you and that you're comfortable learning and that you can get into and not have any problems, and then commit to that for the next 3 months. Nurturing, really important when it comes to branding. Let it become the habit. So nurturing your network is crucial when you're building your brand. So your network is primarily, you want to be thinking about your clients, your prospects, your potential clients, but it's also your colleagues, you know, your your classmates, if you're doing any, you know, like education on the side to build, you know, yourself up, or you know, friends, families, anyone that you have an association with. It's essential that they understand your brand and your value proposition, even if they're not experts in your field, right? So by having a clear brand and value proposition, it's easier for your network to remember and refer you to others. That's why I'm saying involve others, not necessarily your clients, because the people that don't necessarily understand what you do are going to be the most powerful ones to critique your value proposition, because they're going to ask, well, what does that mean? And that's the way you've got to think of it, right? Don't assume that everyone understands what you do. So that's powerful. So LinkedIn is an excellent tool as well, as probably, you know, most of you are aware. It's, for me, the most important for quantity surveyors because it's a professional networking platform. This enables you to tap into the power of your network or potential network, your prospects, and to build more into your network. You can ask your connections for warm introductions to their contacts, if you like. You can also use LinkedIn to research your prospects. This is really, I would suggest, the most optimal, and and your clients before meeting with them, right? So, you know, you may never meet them. It may all be online, but, you know, building relationships with others in your field is also important. Don't just restrict it to your clients. Build network. Don't build networks with competitors necessarily, unless it's super important for you to do so, like the example I gave, you know, earlier, where there's only one of 2 and I do align with the other person because strategically it makes sense on some occasions. But you don't necessarily want to be connecting with a load of competitors, because all they're going to be doing is looking at what you're doing, and it's kind of pointless. So follow them on social media, comment on their posts, and offer them value are all great ways to start building a connection. Don't go in from day one. So many people make this mistake on platforms like LinkedIn. You send a connection request and it gets accepted, and immediately this pitch comes in. Oh, how you doing? I've got this product XYZ. Do you want to buy it? No one bloody cares, right? They're not interested in that. You need to nurture. Nurturing is the key in 2023. It's been the key for the last few years. People do not respond to cold pitches straight off the bat. They may have a need, right? They may have a problem that you have the solution for, but they will not appreciate you ramming it down their throat on the first attempt. So bear that in mind. So it's important to treat everyone in your network with care, regardless of whether they're strong or weak ties. Okay. Giving more than you get is a good rule of thumb. The value component of marketing, as I call it. Think of ways that you can help people in your network achieve their goals, and proactively reach out to offer your assistance. Right. This is building trust, credibility. Always remember to thank people for their generosity and circle back to them. Know the outcome if they were involved. Your network needs to be nurtured consistently to be valuable. Okay, don't just connect and then never communicate with anyone. Excuse me. If it's not up to date, take action right away. Make a list of your top connections and aspirational relationships. Reach out to your current connections to catch up and offer help if possible. Find ways to begin building the rapport with your target audience. And to do all of this, you need to be investing in a good CRM so that you can effectively manage all of this. Don't rely on your memory, because you will fail. Guarantee. I can tell you that from personal experience, years and years and years ago. It does not work, even on sheets of paper, spreadsheets, that type of thing. CRM systems, they're not expensive. The one I use is about $24 a month or something like that, and it's much more efficient, so efficient. Okay, and you know what you need to do. It prompts you to plan, and it's just great. So section 4, and we are coming to attracting interest. So aim to become a thought leader. Your brand is not just about the service you offer and the promises you make. It's all about the ideas you share and the knowledge that you impart as well. So this is where thought leadership comes in. This is where it kicks in. To start, a thought leader is someone who is recognized as an expert in their field. They are sought out by others for their expertise, and sometimes, they even get paid for sharing those insights, although this is not the primary objective from a branding perspective right now in your first 12 months. It's not just about having a strong brand or being good at what you do. It's about being able to teach to your peers and your target market. It's quite a strong principle, actually. One key difference between having a strong brand and being a thought leader is that a strong brand is about what people expect from your product or service, in our case as QS's service, while the thought leadership is about the ideas and insights beyond that service. Think about what you could do to become a thought leader in. I'm going to just leave that as a seed planted in your mind to think about and explore. When you're a thought leader, people seek out your opinion on emerging trends and issues in your field. Okay, and another reason to go super niche, because it becomes easier to become that thought leader. And you might get invited to speak at major conferences, for example. Most importantly, when people need help or expertise, they will call you first because you're the recognized thought leader. You can command a premium for your ideas and potentially create assets like books or recordings that you can sell. They become the so-called evergreen content. However, being a thought leader is not something you can just bestow upon yourself. It must be earned over time with a body of work and consistent engagement. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm a thought leader. You have to work towards it. You have to put in the work. Credibility as a thought leader, it requires true leadership and a willingness to push the conversation forward and to support those that come behind you. You have to have a balanced perspective. Aim to become one towards the tail end of your first year in business. As I said, it won't be overnight, but if you work towards being one towards the end of your first year, that would be really, really a good milestone for you. So to establish yourself as a thought leader, you must choose an area of focus. The bigger the area, the harder it will be to claim your position, for the reasons that I said earlier in branding. Don't go too broad, go as micro niche as possible. Then you need to build a strong and consistent point of view throughout the content that you create, such as articles, blogs, videos, podcasts, whatever it may be. Finally, you must make sure that other people in your field, both the leaders and the ones who follow, know your work and respond to it. Whether they agree or disagree with your opinion is not the issue. They need to consider it interesting and relevant. Okay. To be a true thought leader, you need to be confident that anyone interested in your field of expertise would recognize your name or status. Okay, that's why you've got to work towards it, because at the beginning, no one will. If the top thought leaders in your space know you well, successful strangers will reach out for your opinions and advice, and you're frequently quoted on that area of expertise. Congratulations, chances you're already a thought leader. A good example for anyone who is in marketing would be the rise of Alex Hormozi, for example. And if you don't know who he is, go check him out. People follow him, and they really take to heart what he says. And that's a position that you want to be in your particular field in quantity surveying in your micro niche. Right. Section 5. Well, don't be put off. Test it if it's not working. Test it and make sure it's working. We're coming to the end now. So in today's world, having a strong brand is key to success as a consultant or a thought leader. But what happens when you've achieved the notoriety, you're not yet making any money? Is your brand working for you or against you? So many consultants excel at their work, no question with that, but they struggle with marketing or sales. This is the number one kind of drawback that I see with people starting their own consultancies, mainly because it doesn't come naturally to us as quantity surveyors. We're not taught marketing, branding, all of these things. We have to learn them if we want to build a successful consultancy. So how do you know if your brand is working for you or not? One strong indicator is to ask people how they see your business, particularly in relation to your messaging and your positioning. If they can't resonate with it, then you need to fine-tune. Another reason why your brand may not be working for you is that you haven't tied it clearly enough to the work that you do for the clients and the value that you create for them. It's important that your target buyers understand the kind of work you do for them and how it can benefit. And if they don't, you may need to rethink your messaging and marketing strategy. Now, this bit here is definitely going to be the case for you in your first 12 months. You'll probably go through various iterations of refinement, and that's okay. I'm here to tell you that that's okay. I would not expect anything less, because for the reasons that I've just said up here, that as QSs, we are not born into marketing, sales, branding, all of that type of thing. So we have to learn it, and we have to learn it by putting in the work, testing, experimenting, split testing, and seeing what works, keeping a note of what's working, what isn't, and we concentrate more on what doesn't and more of what does. It's also important to remember that being well known and well regarded is great for the ego, but it's not always great for the bank. So if you want to make money, you need to prioritize your selling conversations and reprioritize your brand building activities. So keep testing, keep a note of everything you do, as I've just said, of what works and what doesn't particularly, and do less of what doesn't and more of what does. That's the way to succeed in testing. Now, making it a habit, I think I kind of alluded to this earlier, but building your brand is essential. No two ways about it. Don't try and skip it, because it's severely going to impact your ability to grow in the longer term. It should be a priority if you want to grow and attract the right clients. If you're not interested in the right clients, fill your boots, ignore this module, but it's going to cost you. I guarantee that. However, yeah, having said that, as a solo consultant, you do have limited time, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. I completely and utterly understand. I've been there. But with all the brand building activities that you could be doing, it can become overwhelming. So how do you make it a habit, and how do you go about making it effective? Well, start by assessing your current brand building activities, understand where you are, what you've got to do, and are they working for you? Do they take up too much of your time? Can you delegate some of those tasks to others? Your goal should be to spend your time doing things that only you can do, and finding resources that can help you make your brand building activities more effective and efficient. So that's essentially just time management, right? So one way to make brand building easier is to hire someone to help you with your PR. This does not have to cost you dearly. There are many outlets like Fiverr, for example. Upwork is another one, I think, where you can get help for a low cost. Just be careful that whoever you're choosing has a bit of a background and history and testimonials for what you're engaging them for. The last thing I'd want is for you to spend money and just not get what you want. So consistency is key to effective brand building. Find tactics that work for you, and then just rinse and repeat. For the first few months, you're going to be wondering, and you're going to be testing. But once you find that magic formula, just keep rinsing and repeating it. It's so crucial to make it a habit. Just schedule time each week to work on brand building activities. Just block it out. This way, you're more likely to follow through and stay consistent. Book that time in the diary, electronic or written or whatever it is, and just lock that time out and be super conscious that you stick to it no matter what else is happening in the external environment. So now, evolution of the brand. So as a consultant, your brand is your calling card, bottom line, your reputation and your most valuable asset. It's essential to keep it fresh and evolving to reflect your changing priorities and your goals. The good news is that consulting brands are malleable, and you can change them in small ways or through a complete overhaul, although I do not recommend that in the first year. Now, just clarity on that. What I'm saying I don't recommend in the first year is a complete overhaul. Perfectly fine to work with malleable content and modify in small ways. That's what I've recommended by the testing and working out what's working, what's not working. But 7 months in, 8 months in, don't just say, well, I'm bombing this out and starting from scratch, because that's going to be a hard graft. Establishing a second brand once you're more established should also be a longer term goal, but not in your first year, please. Your first year is going to be hard enough for you, so you don't want to be adding in some additional burdens that are not relevant for the first 12 months, although they may be more relevant in years to come as part of a strategic plan, essentially. Another essential aspect of evolving your brand is to assess your priorities and goals regularly. Are you still aligned with your original vision? Or have your priorities changed? Your business is going to be growing. Things may change. It's important to keep your brand up to pace with all of that. Take time to reflect on what you want to accomplish, what kind of clients you want to work with, and what kind of work you want to do. If that changes at any time, which it will, I suggest. And remember that your company belongs to you. You have the power to add another brand or evolve it. Evolve the one that you have. Don't be afraid to take risks, make changes, and embrace new opportunities. Change is where the magic happens in most situations. Your brand is your most valuable asset, and it's essential to keep it fresh and evolving to reflect your changing priorities and goals. Now, I know that was a lot to digest, which is why I said at the beginning, please go back through it, divide it into smaller segments, take notes, make sure you understand all of this, because this is a very crucial component of starting your consultancy, because it's how your clients are going to measure you. It's how they're going to see whether they want to work with you. So super important. So next, well, I would suggest go deeper. Go read some content on branding. There's lots of options out there. I'm not going to make any specific recommendations. It's different things for different people. Everyone has different ways of learning. So I'm not going to make any recommendations other than just, Google branding and make sure you understand what the content is likely going to be. Books, truth be told, understand what the content is and how it can serve you before you go diving in and buying all of them. But I suggest that you buy, one or two really good ones on branding that is relevant to personal branding and also consultancy branding. Don't buy books on product branding per se. You need to be concentrating on, firstly, consulting branding, and if you have that interest around personal branding, then go and select one of those as well. As I say, I'm not covering personal branding deeply in this because this is more the setting up your consultancy side. I do dive deeper in the main program on that, but I think for the overview it would be too confusing for you. So yeah, just go and choose those to help you develop your own little niche that will be profitable. That's really the aim of it. So now, just to highlight that, in the main, start your own consultancy. You get full assistance and mentoring with all of this and so much more. We help you develop your own brand, your positioning, your messaging. We have, templates and SOPs around all of this. How you deal with omnipresence, which is making your messaging congruent across multiple platforms and outlets and channels, as we call them in this presentation, etc. So we will cover marketing of the consultancy, however, in another module in this course, so don't worry about that. That's not been forgotten. And finally, I want to thank you for watching this module. If you've got this far, hats off to you. It means you're serious about building your consultancy, and I acknowledge you for that. And I would encourage you to continue going through the remaining modules, and I would also encourage you to watch these modules and lessons more than once. You have access to them pretty much whenever you want. That's the beauty of recorded content. And take action. That's the one big piece of advice I want you to take away from all of this, is take action, because you won't build your consultancy without taking action. This course will give you really valuable content in order to drive forward, but only you can be responsible for your actions in implementing it. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to see you in the next one and sign off now.